The Big H Podcast, tune in now. Conversations that'll wow. Laugh and learn, stay a while. Let's explore that Hilton style. From the highs to the lows, every story just explodes. Mike's got questions on the go, diving deep from head to toe. Every week the guests align, sharing moments so divine. Stay with us, the pace is fine. Every episode you'll find. The Big H Podcast, tune in now. Conversations that'll wow. Laugh and learn, stay a while. Let's explore that Hilton style.
Well, welcome to the Big H Podcast. I have two of my three favorite people in the world, son Michael, daughter Mallory, on Father's Day 2025. Kids, it's great to have you here.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
You received a series of questions by your producer before the podcast that we can go through, and if you have any other questions to ask you. But this is really going to focus on fatherhood. And you two are the reason that I get this day.
You're welcome.
You're welcome. And even before I start, I want to wish all those fathers and Father's Day figures around the world happy Father's Day. It's a big day for them. They're probably slaving over the grill maybe, or hitting the golf course, or doing something like that. The U.S. Open's presently in a rain delay, so it resumes at 5:40. So maybe by the end of this podcast, it'll start. So you might have some questions for me.
Yeah, I'll start. What was the feeling when you learned that you were going to be a father?
Well, I think when you're married, you kind of enjoy the married life. Your mother and I, we were going to, a lot of weddings and family events, and there's just no responsibilities. You want to get up and go. You want to go to casino on a weekend or something, just go. And when you find out that you're going to be a father, or even a mother, I think, you realize your life changes dramatically, because now you're not just thinking for your spouse, you're thinking for another human being coming into the world. I didn't have a learner's manual on how to be a dad, and it's like you kind of have to learn as you go along. And so I was extremely nervous and very just scared of the thought, but I had witnessed, your Uncle Jay bringing Nadine, with Aunt Lori, bringing her into the world, and just watching him get a pretty good, which we'll talk about later, father, Pop, watching him with your aunts and uncle. And I just think it was a nervous excitement, and your mother handled it with very good grace. The guy, for 9 months, the wife and mother has to carry you in their tum-tums, and, their body goes through changes, and it's so much more on them. But I think it makes husbands grow up a lot faster. Like, if you have a hustle and bustle freelancing life, it's going to come to a quick end, because you're not just a provider, but you want to set good principles for your family. You want to be a leader in faith. You want to say and do the right things, but when it really comes down to it, you make a lot of mistakes too. And I know that's a future question too. So I think it was just a really nervous excitement. We always wanted to have kids. Your mother came from a family of 4. I came from a family of 5. We saw huge value in multiple kids in a family, just from what it can enrich someone's life, not just the parents, but the siblings. So definitely a nervous excitement. I think I've said that 3 times. But well worth it.
When we came into your life, how did it change?
Well, that the first question was around what was it like when you found out mommy was going to have a baby, and then the next time was like, your mother carrying you guys for 9 months, and then that delivery time was just wow. I remember when Michael came into the world, they had those disposable cameras, and so I wanted to capture the moment. So we went to the delivery room, and I was in such a hurry, I forgot the camera. And I said to the doctor, I said, "Can I go back to the room and get a camera?" She says, "Sure." So I go back and get the camera, and I got lost on the way back to the delivery room, and I was frantic that I was going to miss your delivery and everything. Um, we decided not to know if you were going to be a boy or a girl, so that was kind of the also excitement. We were praying, of course, that you're going to come out healthy and everything. And thank the Lord, we both did. Some parents aren't as lucky. Um, and I remember when mom was on the table getting ready, and she delivered both of you by C-section. So there was an anesthesiologist with us, and he was just this really young, cocky guy. You could tell. He looked all about 35, and he had all his medication on his tray, and he just looked at me and he says, "Hey, if you fall on the floor, you're on your own because she's the patient, right?" And mommy, was really good. I keep saying mommy, but I know you called her mommy. And he said, "Well, what are the names you're going to have?" And he in pen wrote down Michael, boy, and Mallory. And then when you came into the world, and the doctor said, "Oh, it's a boy," it's like, wow. We knew your name, of course, and I think whether it was Mallory first or it was two Mallorys, you know what I mean, not two Mallorys, you're still happy because you were healthy. But I'm thinking, wow, that's great. I got a son who maybe will pass along the name because that's somewhat in the back of your mind, but you were healthy. And you, of course, were healthy when you came into the world. And it was March 29th, and I think it was around 10 or 10:15 in the morning. You had good weight on you. And again, still scared to death. And ran into a friend, Mr. Brock, who had Max the night before. And I ran into him in the vending machine. He was like popping in some, hot pocket. He was cool as a cucumber. It's his second kid, and I'm like, man, I wish I could be that way. And then, when we got mom back to the room, it's a surgery, so it's very painful on the female because it's going to take some recovery time. Mom's tough, but everything. But I just remember being happy to call everybody. I don't know if we had text message at the time. I probably couldn't figure that out. So I remember calling Grammy first, and Jim and Shirley, and Grandma and Pop, which we call your mother's parents, and then all of my siblings and Carla's siblings, and I think your Uncle Brian showed up in his police uniform to come in and check things out. And it was just, again, you don't know what to expect. You read some books about it, but you want to make sure your mother's comfortable. But then there's you. Babies cry. They need changing. They need food. And so I think it was just, again, nervous excitement. Well, the nervous excitement was still there, but we had some good support at home with my mom. She showed up when we got home with both of you, and was able to do some things so mom could get some rest. Talk to me because I was clueless. I admit it. I was clueless. There are some dads nowadays that are just incredible with what they can do, with what they do. Maybe it's a generational thing. Um, when you came along, Mallory, it was a little bit more. I knew what to expect from the surgery. Mom's was kind of unexpected. Um, we were supposed to have you on February 16th, and then for some reason her doctor couldn't work on that day, so we moved it to Valentine's Day. So whoever you end up with is going to get a double whammy on that day to celebrate your birthday and um, your birthday and the day of love. Your birthday or your birth was in February, and we knew it was going to be a huge snowfall that day. So Grammy, my mom came over to stay with Michael, and we drove into Uncle Brian's house. He lived off of Ridge Road because we wanted a shorter route hospital, and I think overnight, when we were there over that day, we got 23 inches of snow. So there was a snow day for all the school districts and everything. So um, Uncle Brian got up in the morning and shoveled the driveway for us right to the car. So your mother that could, walk right to the car. She actually let me drive. Your mother never lets me drive. And ironically, I don't know, it's like God was looking down on us. We got out into Ridge Road and a plow pulled right out in front of us and just plowed the whole way. So we had easy traveling to the hospital, and you were scheduled and everything. And
Were we born in the same hospital?
born in the same hospital. If I get this wrong, your mother's going to kill me. A Russian general, I believe. Yeah, and then um, again, I almost didn't make the delivery room with you because I couldn't find the camera. And when you were delivered, the doctors like to have the music playing, so they can work in a comfortable. And when you came in, the song "My Girl" by the Temptations was playing. I was like, "Gosh, this is amazing," And you, of course, were the girl, and you were healthy and everything. And I can't remember your weight, but you were born, pretty close to the same time as Michael, between 10 and 11. And I remember going back, and I think that was when Pop. I'm not sure which birth, but he was standing at the door with a congratulations. I think it might have been yours, maybe not because it was bad weather. Um, they put you guys between mommy's legs and would roll her to the room and calling people. And when Nani was still alive with us at that point, I think she was like the second or third I called, and she said, "Oh, you got a millionaires couple now." I said, "We're teachers. We're not millionaires, and whatever." And she said, "No, if you have a boy or a girl, that's considered a millionaires couple when we were growing up." So, um, again, we got a boy and a girl. Aunt Jamie came in to help with you too a couple of days later, and then now you got two kids bringing home. You were sleeping through the night. You young baby, and it was like, oh my gosh, one is you can focus on, and two is more, and then one of my colleagues at work said when you get three or more, it's just chaos. So
Stop.
I think, yeah,
Stop it too.
yeah, that's the why I think when you guys came in the world now, I was like, mom could get some time off to recover and just enjoy some time a little bit after carrying you for 9 months. But it takes the mom some time to do some recovery after live birth, or C-section or surgery or anything. And but you couldn't be more happy. When you were born, mom got this big sign from Parmarec. I mean, the thing was about 12 feet tall, stuck out there, and said, "It's a boy." I don't think they did that for you. She did that for you. Um, so the whole community would drive by here and knew that Michael Ice came into the world. So great day, and sometimes I forget how old you are, but you're 20, you're 18, and I'm really glad you're here.
All right. Speaking of crying in the middle of the night, who when we were up crying in the middle of the night, who got up?
Well, first of all, knowing your dad, you probably know the answer to that question. Of course, it was your mother, and she reminds me a lot to this day. Um, she took, of course, maternity leave, so I would still be working at the school. So she knew it was important, at least during Monday through Friday, and she would always get up and get you a bottle or whatever. And you know, eventually, as you get a little bit older, as a parent, you got to realize sometimes you got to let the kid cry, and they'll cry themselves back to sleep. But your mother was just tremendous in terms of, I don't want to say it was a traditional mommy daddy role, but it kind of was. And I, I don't know. I don't want to say that I took advantage of your mom in that way, but it really worked for us. And your mother probably wouldn't have it any other way. I think it helped her grow in closeness to you guys, and So she, for those few months, and even when she went back to work, tired, and I remember my mom saying, the worst thing about kids having kids are great, but the worst thing about it was you just sleep deprivation after you're born. But your mother really tackled that head on, and God bless her. She was the one to put you guys to bed, read your books, and just get that regimented routine with you all, and allow me to you know relax, which was important as well. But you know, that's why when I tease her, I say, "What are you getting me on Father's Day?" And she'll say, "Every day's Father's Day with you, Mike." And she's kind of right. Like I get fed, and she does the laundry, doing more cooking, right? And so if I don't get a gift or anything, I don't care because she gets really really nice cards and writes nice things. So I forget the original question was who gets up when she cries. Your mother, and God bless her for that. So happy.
All right, how did you come up with our names?
How did you come up with your names? Um, we were still in the period of people getting, I don't want to say normal names, but biblical names and stuff. And we really liked Michael. We didn't want to make you a third or a second or whatever it was, but we liked Michael, and we, for a middle name, we used your grandfather Jim's middle or first name. So Michael James was going to be our boy, and then for girls, we had a hard time with girls. We really did, and we searched through books, we searched through names, and we really struggled. And then I remember watching this sitcom in the '80s, and it was called Family Ties, and it was about these two liberal parents who had three children, and Michael J. Fox was their conservative son, and then they had a daughter who was just about the same age, named Mallory, and she was, it wasn't the show wasn't about politics, but and then they had a younger daughter, and I forget what her name was, because it was basically focusing on Michael J. Fox and Justine Bateman, Jason Bateman's sister in real life. And we loved the Ring of Mallory. I think when you think of how they're going to call names or whatever, Mallory just had a great ring to it. And then when it came to middle name, um, Graham's middle name is Jean, and then Grammy, my mom's middle name, is Jean as well. So we went with Mallory Jean and Michael James. And you could be MJ for your initials and things like that. Um, so when we had the boy name and the girl name when you were coming into the world, and when you were coming into the world, it's like, well, what are you going to do for the boy if you have a boy? And I really liked the name Tanner, and it was from the Bad News Bears. Those people my age remember Tanner. He was a foul-mouthed shortstop, and he used to call Walter Matthau buttercrud, and he swore a lot, And I really liked that name Tanner, and his middle name would be Jay after my dad, so he would be TJ Hayes. But we got a Mallory, so we didn't have to worry about naming it a boy, naming the baby a boy. So it's kind of like how your names came about, and I love it. I like parents that we didn't want to know what you were going to be. Some parents really want to plan out, with the bedroom colors and everything, so they find out, so they kind of know the names. But it's really exciting, I think, when we didn't know what you were going to be, a boy or a girl, but we knew the names. So um, I don't even think we shared your names with people. And I know some people are like that also do that same thing now. They won't share the gender and they won't share the possible names. And it just keeps their friends and family waiting, and I think that's exciting too. So I think that's how we got your names.
I remember it wasn't a second option for girl, Jillian.
Jillian we
Jill?
like, yeah, and your aunt Jill at the time was going through some health issues, still does with multiple sclerosis, but we liked the way we like we love Jill, of course, and we still do. Yes, we do. And her name was Jill, and she was the one girl of four other brothers. Grew up a tomboy, tremendous athlete, funny, tough, and if we thought about it, if we had another, we'd probably name it daughter named Jillian. kind of in remembrance of her, to honor her, I guess, because and but you came along, and I don't know, it's just we had swung over to Mallory, and but I've noticed that you do a lot to honor Aunt Jill. You have Jill Heist nameplate on your door or whatever, so um, she's always in our thoughts.
Mhm.
What were some challenges you faced as a young father?
Well, as a young father, I think we're, when you guys were in the hospital, it was like you always had to keep you warm, and they'd give you these cloths, and you'd have to wrap you up like pretty darn tight. And I was already worried about breaking it or whatever. And Uncle Jay came to the hospital to visit, and I was like, Jay, would you wrap up Michael? And he's like, sure. And he'd already had Nadine, and he was like,
Brooke and Andrew too.
was Andrew before you?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, he was definitely more experienced than I was, so it was like one of those simple little things that he had been there, done that. Um, Changing diapers. Oh, when we were in the hospital with you, um, the nurse came in. I remember she was this burly nurse, and I had to change you. So I went over to change you, and I took the tissues and went to change you, and she scolded me, and she said, "You didn't water that up." Like she yelled at me, and I was like, I honestly didn't know that at that point, I had to put water on this type of thing at the hospital. Is wipe your bum bum and then change the diaper. So the diaper change was something new. Your mother did a lot of that. Um, the getting up in the middle of the night, your mother made it easy on me. Um, I think when you were younger, those were some of the little things, because as they say, babies just sleep, eat, and poop, and it's a lot of it's true. I think as you got older, um, it was trying to direct you with good principles, putting good people around you, knowing your friendships. Um, and this is a hard thing also, letting you make mistakes and just being there for when you do, whether it's on the athletic field or it's in school. You know, Struggling is part of life, and not intruding so much on that, and let you work through some things. And as you've gotten older into middle school, high school, now college, and you're going to be going to college, I like to listen to podcasts. I was listening to this guy. He wrote a book on parenting. And he said that parents don't realize that so much of what you have to do is just listen. If your child comes home with a bad day at school, or bad day at sports or something, don't think that you have to solve the problem. Don't think that you have to get X, Y, and Z. Don't think you got to get on the phone to the teacher or the principal. Don't think you got to call the coach. They need to figure out things on their own. Now, I know your question was a young father, but I still feel I'm a young father, so I want to be around a lot. So when you bring home some grandbabies, the nutty professor line. So I think, listening, being slow to listen, quick to talk. No, wait. Quick to listen, slow to speak. Your mother says I don't have a filter, and she's partially, well, completely right on that.
She's right.
Yeah.
She thinks it's all the blows from football when I was younger that it's affected my frontal lobe. Really, to chew your words twice before you spit them out. I don't know what it goes. God, raised you with 2 ears and 1 mouth. Not being mouthy, and just let your children find their path. I know what was good for me, your mother, and I know what satisfied me and made me happy. But let you find your path, whether it's your interests or your careers. But just be there along the way to support and love whatever comes along. And when you do fall, it's like that song by McFly, "The Heart Never Lies." The heart never lies, and it says, "When you fall, I'll be right there behind you." And I think that's how parents should be too with their kids. Like, it's going to happen. But expect it and deal with it. Before we go to the next question, I just remember my mother. She would say, life is 10% of what happens to you, 90% of how you deal with it. And you learn through life on good ways you've dealt with things and maybe some poor things that you've dealt with things. So nobody's perfect, and there's no manual.
All right, you want to get into some of your interests? You've always had a love for sports and music and podcasting. So how is that important to you?
I think when your producer put that on there, I wanted to talk about how the interests that you have and how they've um, fulfilled and enriched my life. And of course, I want to go with music first. We'll get to my dad in a little bit, but my dad was very musical. Um, Played the piano and the accordion, and he was so good he could do it by ear. And basically, what that is he could hear a song and then belt it out on the piano. He's very talented there. I think the love of music. I'm glad that you did it. Both of you did it for a while. You played the piano for a little bit, and then the drums, and you were the baritone. So I think, and I played the trumpet in high school all the way through senior year, and I loved being in a band. And your friendship circle gets much larger, and you learn teamwork from there. You learn you're not just this one person playing an instrument. You're a team, and when you can belt out a song, it's just really, really special and cool. So I'm glad that you each picked that up. Sports, of course, was a huge part of, of my life and my family's life. I loved playing it. I coached it for a while. Um, but you had to be careful as a dad. And you want to encourage your kids to play sports, but again, you want to let them pick their path. You don't want to be that dad yelling at the ref. You don't want to be that dad yelling at their kid after the baseball game they struck out 4 times. Um, because I'm not going to lie, I went through that sometimes with my dad, and I think some of the lessons you learn are things not to do. But sports, success or failures, it was a great way to learn camaraderie and team chemistry and being part of a group. That it's not just you. If you play sports like maybe tennis or golf, where it's you one on one, it's a little bit different. But team sports are I think, just outstanding and enriching what you can become in life. John Wooden, the great coach from UCLA, won a bunch of national championships. He said, "Sports don't build character; they reveal it." And there's there's tons of truth to that. So find what you like, do what you love, and don't be afraid to fail. Like, give it a shot. It's so that sports and music, and then coaching is wonderful, and I think it's that thrill of competition. I think I like to compete. I know I like to compete, so I liked it to compete with my players. And I've made mistakes there too, where I've been too harsh on a player or a team for not performing the way I think they can. Learned a lot of lessons there from parents and stuff. But when you guys were coming along into your athletic adventures, besides being in bands, and you were a dancer at one point, I always wanted you to be on the championship team, and a sectional championship team. And I was like, I don't care what your role is. I want you to experience being on a championship team, and you can get that patch that I never got. I would have given my right arm for one. I want you to be on that brick in the display case. And I think some of the best days, nights of my life, first, getting married to your mother, your births, and then when you won sectionals for football, um, that rainy, pouring day out at Fairport, and I was doing stats, and you had worked into a starting role from the beginning of the season, and you really came into your own. And you guys ran off, I don't know, like 9 wins in a row before sectionals or whatever it was. And just watching how that game transpired, and I Jeffrey Brodnax and Robert Lowry. I probably cheated you out of some yards because I was watching 72 blocks so much. But watching you perform in that game, and in the toughness and stuff, and I remember the game was kind of in the balance. I think we had just taken the lead, and we were in a bone formation. And well, after the play, I knew what the play was. It was a 45 blast with Robert. So fullback and tailback are slamming up the left side, and your guy bull rushed you. And I even watched it on the tape afterwards. You used your feet and you swung your butt around, and so you walled him off. And Robert just comes around and makes a cut, just boom, and then 45 yards for a touchdown. And it was like, okay, and you guys never looked back. And then, so seeing you have that success gave me so much pride, and I was so happy for you because you had achieved something that I never could. It was that team achievement. And then, Mallory, when you were playing, I was like, your two sports were basketball and soccer. And basketball, I mean, like, basketball girls were, you had Bishop Kearney and Schrader and Fairport, Penfield. I'm like, oh my God, you're never going to get a championship there. But soccer, you got some good soccer players that you played with, with Liv Pilato and Sierra Bianchi and Sid Fisher. I don't want to leave out anybody, but you know the people I'm talking about. So I thought soccer would be yours. And then came into your junior year, was it?
Yep.
And Schrader's big gun, Mariah Watkins, who was a dominant force and would have been a senior. They had won the state title the year before. She suffered a knee injury in preseason, and all of a sudden I looked at your mother and I'm like, something just opened up, and you and Ella Clark and Leah Thompson they were going to be seniors. You're going to be a junior. I'm thinking, if the skies open up and God looks down, you got a shot. And the season, dropped a couple here, looked good here. All of a sudden I think, did we beat Penfield that year in regular season?
Yeah.
Or split? Yeah.
Beat him twice.
And I'm thinking, and then we split with Victor. We pounded him at home, Ryland got in foul trouble, whatever. And then Finger Lakes, that night was very, very special. Just no one could score. It was just you guys were beating each other up. And I think you guys were down by 9 in the first half. Just couldn't get a bucket, and they were hounding you. Our good old friend Ruthie was with us. And all of a sudden the game started to turn. And Michael, were you watching by Zoom?
I was in West Virginia watching.
Okay. And I'm thinking, we might get this. And then Leah Thompson scored a go-ahead bucket. And I think you hit a couple of big free throws. And then, but they still had a shot. And I watched it a couple of times since then. And they dribbled the ball around. They got a shot out to somebody. I don't know who it was. And Ella goes out and challenges the shot, and the shot goes off the rim, gets batted around, and you rip it, and then you start dribbling the ball down court. The buzzer sounds. You slam the ball down because, like, hey, that's it. We did it. We got there. And I think, again, I was so happy for you, happy for the community, the Big H. I seen the video with Tim Jackson Sr., pulling one of these in the distance, and Uncle Dave going nuts. Our family was there. And so it was very, 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 very special. And I was so glad to have you experience that. And I think as a sports dad, you want to be proud, but you don't want to be arrogant. And so I found some people at school that I can talk with that kind of be my brag people too, and I hope to be there for them as their children are getting older. And I've been really able to bounce my pride of you guys off of them because I think they understand they had success themselves at high levels, and I think that helped. And I remember going out to Bill Graves with all the football coaches. The wives showed up, and it was just everyone's getting dried off after it, and Coach Lapani coming in, and it was just a fabulous night. By the way, I did take these stat sheets from there, and I made copies for Coach Lapani, and I had the originals. They're right over there, but he got the numbers. And then with your night, I think they came back, and I was there. I don't know if there's a fire truck there, but
There might have been.
Yeah.
and I think you guys doused Coach Heiss with
Yeah, Gatorade.
Gatorade, and it was just a special night. I know I probably went on too long for that question, but sports were such a big part of the Heiss' life. Your Aunt Jill won a couple of sectional titles. Jay was a great athlete. Dave was a great athlete. Pat was very strong. Really was one of the most improved football players I've ever seen from his junior, senior year. I think he was an unsung hero there. But it was part of our lives, very big part. And watching you guys succeed, and even if you didn't, it was so great going to watch games and everything.
Surely we're proud of your children on your sleeve with your tattoos.
I do, and if I would take off my shirt, my belly would show. But the big H came from my sister actually. I kind of got the idea there when they won. My sister was, I don't know, the class of '85. Annie Mitzenberger was, I forget what her name is now. Jenny Allen. That group, they won a couple titles, soccer and softball. And when they won the soccer, Aunt Jill was like very instrumental. She was a left winger, and I think the score was 1-1. And she came down off the left side, pulled this amazing move, and then took the girl to the left, back to the right, took a shot from about 18 yards and went right corner. I mean, that's what she was intending to do. And they went up 2-1. I think it was on Pittsburgh, and they just played keep away, and they won the title. And then they came back, and the fire trucks would meet the team at Ridge Road and drive you around the village. And they had to scale back because it disturbed the community a little bit. They didn't like their fire trucks being used for that or whatever. I get that. And then they came to the community center for pizza with the girls. And so they asked my dad, he was a village trustee, to get up and say a few words when he gets up there. Uncle Jay and Dave and Uncle Pat, I still remember, he's got this hat with an H on it. And he gets up there, he's like, the big H. You guys did it for the big H. And we're like, oh, God, he sounds so goofy, right? So when it came time for the podcast, I was like, how about the big H? And you bring to the tattoos. I'd always talked to Paula Starwald about football when I was coaching, and before you even got into JV and varsity, Michael, and I said, if they ever win the varsity program ever wins the sectionals again, I'm getting a tattoo. And I'm getting the tattoo of the red H from LeBeau Field. She's like, no, you won't. I go, watch. If you knew me in high school, I was the most conservative, straight as an arrow, kind of like book nerd there was, and I like sports. So you would have never thought I'd ever get a tattoo. So when you won the title, Coach Perzak drove me downtown, got my tattoo. Very, very proud of it. And then when you went into sectionals your junior year, I remember Coach Perzak was up feeding his face with a garbage plate with the family. And I said, all right, Mallory, if you win the sectionals, I'll get a tattoo, representing you. So, you have the Hilton Cadets tattoo here. Michael's, the big H, is over here. And so, yeah, I'm going to go into my casket with tattoos representing your championships. So it's just something that I think, I talked about dads being prideful but not arrogant. And like, this is kind of like my way of being prideful. And if people want to ask me, why do you have a big H on your bicep and a Hilton Cadets? And can I tell a quick story about Mr. Wheaton?
Oh, of course.
Okay. Last year we were at our coaches meeting for the fall, and he wanted you to go around and introduce who you were and what level you coach. So it comes to me, I said, hi, I'm Mike Hayes, I coach Modified B football. Something that I did in the off season, I went and got the Hilton Cadets tattoo for the girls sectional championship on my arm. And first Coach Lapani goes, well, why didn't you put it on your bald spot on your head? And then Jeff Wheaton, Mr. Wheaton goes, oh, yeah, too bad we changed the logo of the high school over the summer. So, it was kind of funny, but it could be one of those you had to be there jokes. But very proud of those championships. And now your face and are on those bricks. That's the big way of saying it. Or your names are on the brick with your team. And at your football banquet, Coach Foreman was handing out the NYPH SAA patches, the white patches that I would have said, give him my right arm for, and he had some extras. I said, Coach Foreman, he goes, you want one? So he gave me one. So I'm forever in debt to Coach Foreman. So very, very proud of you two for that. And there's a lot of dedication and hard work to Gold Sports.
All right. Do you have any advice to young dads?
I think one of the young advice to young dads, when your mother and I were going through premarital classes with Pastor Zoller, he said that as a couple you should find an older person and go to dinner with them and just kind of bond with them and share your marriage with them, and not as a therapist or anything like that, but just because they've been there and done that. And I think sometimes young dads find that role model that you have. Hopefully it's your own dad if they're still around. My dad had passed before I became a dad, so I looked a lot at Pop, and how he was just such a great provider, just so calm with his family. I'm not nearly as calm. I'm so much more vocal and loud and talkative than Pop, but just how he's just so great with Graham, and how everything he does is to support her, and finding that role model. Advice, knowing that you're going to make mistakes. As a coach, after you get beat, one of the first things I usually say is you learn more from a loss than you do from a win. Keeps you from saying something off that you don't want to. So know that you're going to make mistakes. Be reflective. Have a filter again, before you say things. Words can really direct a child on where they want to go, and good or bad. And if a child makes a poor decision and you just have this look or these words of disgust, like, all you have to do is, if you're mad at a kid, is say, I'm disappointed in you, and that should do the trick, right? That's as far as it should go. And you should be there for support and to praise, but not overpraise, and to set strong principles with them. And if they don't reach those expectations, explain why. And sometimes you got to wait 24 hours. Sometimes you got to wait the next day in order to say it. Because children are fallible too. Another advice to dads is we're all flawed. I know when my dad passed, and we were in the hospital room, and we were all there. Fortunately, Dave was at school, so he was on his way back from Geneseo. And my mom just gathered us, and she said, he wasn't perfect, but he loved you very much. And I think dads, that we have to look at our role is we're not perfect, but love your kids very, very much. And when you're not perfect, reflect on it and try to change it so you don't make the same mistake twice. Another thing too is worked for us is your mother always knows best. And your mother's the emotional support. She keeps the checkbook. So I don't see the money. I know where it's going, and mainly to YouTube. But
For the best.
Yeah.
probably for the best. Whenever I want to lash out in an email or call somebody or call someone out, and I've done this before and I've made mistakes on it, and she'll look at me and she'll be like, no. What is that going to gain? What is that? Well, I'll feel better that I got off of my chest. Okay, you got it off your chest, but what's it going to do in the future for Michael and Mallory or me, or and the thing is, again, I'll admit it, I've made mistakes, and I'm paying for some of those mistakes now. But I would say that to a dad or a young dad or an old dad. Have a filter. Again, I think I mentioned it earlier in the podcast. I have 2 ears and one mouth. Chew your words before you spit them out, because words can really hurt. And some of the things my dad said to me in life were so positive, and some of the things he said, I was like, oh, really? Is that how you felt? Is it? You really. And and it would affect how I would proceed with maybe that hobby or that sport or something like that. So I think that's some of the advice. Be is it omnipresent? Is that when you're always present? Be always present, but sometimes with just your ears. I'm trying to sound too philosophical.
All right, I know you've already talked a lot about your family, but getting more into that, you want to share any funny stories about your dad?
Yeah, I think that was like one of the greatest things. Um, he was very humorous. I mean, you tease me now that I'm shot. You know, like I'm just like sometimes I'm listening, sometimes I'm not. Well, Dad could be clueless too, you know. And I remember when Jill went over to Taiwan to teach English right after college, and so to communicate with her, Dave was with us at home. I was working, but I lived with Mom and Dad on Gordon Avenue, and David was senior in high school, and we'd videotape our dinners and stuff, or videotape the family. And Nani would make that clump soup that you like so much, the chicken and dumpling. And Dad, the night before, we had a dog, Quincy Taylor, and he was the run of the litter. And he would sleep between Mom and Dad. Well, Dad got up in the middle of the night too quickly, and the dog like bit him in the finger. And at that point, we were not going to get rid of the dog. He's just too much part of the family, and he was just startled. And so we're doing this videotape, and Dave and I are on one side, and then Mom is on one, and then Dad's at the center. And Mom said, "Well, Dad, tell Jill about the dog." And so Dad gets up and he looks into the camera. "I got up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom, and the damn dog bit me." And he shows the finger, and Dave does a great impression of it. So one of those funny things really comes to mind. Um, the Heises are known for nicknames. We call them Guy. Jay used to call him Gut Guy because he put on a little bit of a belly. Um, you know, I'm not going to talk ill of the deceased, but this was hilarious in Heist lore. We didn't have a lot of money, so a lot of our vacations were camping at um, Hamlin Beach, and when we went to Fort Niagara. If my brothers are watching this, or Joe, they just don't tell a story, but it's one of the funniest. So we go to Fort Niagara, and we're touring, and I'm off by myself, and I don't know where Jay is or whatever. I mean, these are the days where you could just go anywhere and feel safe, not like nowadays. Mom was there, Jilly and Pat, and I mean David, and we're watching a musket display, right? And it's super quiet, and this guy's showing how to load a musket, and boom, and and then all of a sudden Uncle Jay comes over, and he is rolling with laughter, and I'm like, "What's wrong?" And he goes, "Right before that guy took the shot, Dad just ripped one." So he had this fishing hat, and he could smoke outdoors as he's smoking. He goes, and all he did was laugh at himself. So the Fort Niagara turned into, and I don't like to say this word too much, like Fart Niagara, but it was really one of the most fun things we ever remember about him. And I think as you go through the tougher parts of life, I got to bring up another one. We decided to go golfing, right? And Dad, said he was a good golfer, terrible golfer. Dave could probably beat him when he was 8, and so Dad took Jay, me, and I think Dave maybe, and Pat, and we were at night and the 5th hole on Deerfield, and Dad's up on the tee. And he's got this goofy hat on. He's got the cigarette in his mouth and puts it off to the side like Danny D'Annunzio and Caddyshack. You don't know that part, but Jay does. And it goes in his back swing, comes through his front swing, and it just gave the funniest moment for his sons to be proud of on the 5th hole. And every time we play it, I think we just look at each other and we just kind of nod and remember that time. And so I think those are some of the funniest parts. and just bathroom humor, and you got four boys in the house, my poor mother, and so yeah, those are some of the funniest moments of Dad, and I think those funny moments helped us get through the struggles of when he got sick and we knew he was on his way out. Um, we could remember those times, and times we could tease him about it. So those are some funny moments about my dad.
Other than how to laugh at um, funny situations,
Fart jokes.
at fart jokes, what did your dad teach you?
Ah, man, what did he teach me? Um, he really taught me hard work in that doing things the hard way is not bad. I mean, he was a financial analyst at Chase Bank, and he went to work every day. Wasn't like a teacher like his couple of his sons, where we get some vacation time and things like that. Um, he worked for the village board. He was a trustee for a number of years. He really enjoyed that. Mom did a lot of his reading for him, and then would update Dad on what to do to go to board meetings. But he was seemed like he was always at a board meeting or a community function, and when I say hard work, you know, some of the projects he got around at the house, he put on a basketball hoop. I think it took him 2 years. And Jay and Pat and David would know this. I mean, we had a garage that had like cinder blocks for shingles. So he had to take those off and then cut into the wood and then make these two brackets to go inside and then to hook up inside. And man, when he came through with that, he let us paint the backboard, and it was perfectly 10 feet. It was just so good, and it had taken him a long time, but I think it just proves, like sometimes you can pick up a job and it's going to take you a while, but doing things the hard way, it's it has its benefits, and in the end, you appreciate it much more. And I think some of the sacrifices he made for his kids, he always wanted us to, we got into junior, senior to have a car once we get our driver's license, and we didn't have a lot of money, and our our driveway and side, yard looked like a used car lot. I mean, some of these cars were, well, you're lucky if they started in the morning. I'm not kidding. And he was best buddies with Gordy from Sunoco down the street. Did a ton of work on the cars. So having a car, it was just not that that's teaching us anything. He didn't know a lot about cars, but I think self-sacrifice. Um, One, in his last couple months when we knew his life was coming to an end, he I was living at home at the time. I think David was too, and he had gone through some unemployment time, and that was struggling for us to see, Dave to see, and he kept trying. He tried real estate, and it just but he kept going through it because he knew he had to provide Mom with something. He had always, I think he drained his 401k paying for our college, and it's another thing he did, which we try to do with you guys, paying for college as much as he could. He had five of us, and Dave and I went to state school, and your three other aunt and uncles went to private schools, so they were more expensive. So I think the sacrifice of just money, um, and as he was on his dying days, he said, we never had a lot of money, but I always thought we could provide you with a good meal when you came home. And he was right. And Mom, I miss her cooking today. I always never thought she was a good cook, but she really was a good cook. And Dad would, he was right. We'd come home from college, and every night, I think one of his things that he also taught me is try to sit your family down around the table and have a meal together and talk about each other's day. And had a huge table, and I think I learned that from him too. Um, Not to take yourself too seriously. I mean, he could self-deprecating humor. I'm self-deprecating. Like he could laugh at himself, and I can laugh at myself too, and I think I think that was he was very funny, and like I said earlier, very musical, um, and just you could have a good time. I've gone too young, at 55, but I think when I think I lost him when I was 26, I talked to other people that a woman at work, she lost her dad when she was 12. Uh, Another guy, I used to play football. Both his parents by the time he was 15. So I felt lucky to have him for all that time. So I think those are the things that I learned from him. And although those things I said about being quick to listen, slow to speak, well, maybe he made a few mistakes on that too. So, and I learned from that. So I think as a man, as you get older, you would love to have that dad around for when you have something that goes wrong in the house, to come over with and say, can you help me fix this toilet or help me put up this drywall or whatever. Haven't had that, which is kind of sad. So I do miss that.
Do you have any mistakes that you've made that you reflect on? Like as a dad?
Oh, yeah, I mean, I think kind of been hinting at them here. Um, I think speak before thinking. Um, Family, friends, colleagues. In terms of fatherhood, I think I never like to see my parents argue in front of me. And I know there's been times that we've argued in front of you. I mean, and here's the thing, I always said to myself, I don't want to do that. And, you know, I don't argue very much compared to when my parents were growing up. But they had 5 kids and we had 2. So I think one of the things that I've learned or mistakes is to not argue in front of you. If I have something to say about a coach or a teacher, don't say it in front of you. You made that mistake. So you come to the realization of how you feel about that teacher, that coach. I don't want to tell you that. I don't want to direct you that. Maybe at sporting games, don't yell at refs, don't yell at coaches. Um, totally made that mistake a couple times this year. Don't go urging down and interrupt the coach who's trying to get a game going on.
On the
So
parking lot in center field.
yeah. So and really knowing when to remove yourself, and so a lot of that times was I'd watch from the best seat in the house, which could have been a car way outside in left field at Schwanke Field, or watching on the internet on Huddle, watching your games, and then this year going to your games in person, and so it's been a lot more fun. But really, I think also mistakes I've made, father and husband, being there for your mom more often, not always having her shoulder so many things to help me, not so I don't get triggered by things that are hurtful to me. Um, she doesn't always have to pay the bills. She doesn't always have to make the car appointments. And she does a lot of stuff where they're like, dude, they're bad. Those are bad things. That's kind of our guilt. So I think some of those I would like to have back. And but I'll never. I waited a long time for her. I'm truly glad that I did, and I hope I have a lot longer with her and you guys.
What are some things that you want to do as a dad?
Want to do as a dad now? I think I want to, as you guys, we become empty nesters this summer. I think your mother and I are going to have more time together, and lately we've been enjoying dinners on a Friday night where we just go quickly to Bill Gray's or Hooligans and really enjoy each other talking about you guys. And I don't want to really tie myself into this, but when I was wooing your mother, I used to go to Nashville's, it used to be called the Roost, and I would get on the dance floor and I'd have to be kind of juiced a little bit and learned a couple dances with her, and she keeps saying that I faked her out, that I was going to dance with her. So maybe get into more dancing with her. Maybe a little. Yeah.
You gotta keep that, yeah.
I don't believe that.
I don't know why I
can
put
hear
this on there. I want to do some more walking with your mom, for both of us. We got the town hall right up there. You walk, once or twice around. I think it's like a mile. We can have talks at that point. I want to help. Oh my God, I'm really tying myself into stuff. I want to help your mom out with the gardens this summer. With doing some weeding with that, maybe getting some more plants in there. Um, I'm not a big traveler, and I know people are always like, when you get older and you retire,
Ridge Road.
I don't travel over Ridge Road. But in your mother already knows this. You want to go visit Aunt Jamie in Virginia? Go ahead, whenever. You want to go to visit Aunt Carol in Minnesota? Go whenever. You want to go with Pop or whatever? Um, I'll stay home and call Aunt Shirley. I almost called her Aunt Shirley. Call Graham Shirley, and we have great talks. And just encourage her to get out and about, even if I don't want to. And but maybe also push myself to get out more. And I really think she would like it even if I didn't dance with her, is just maybe go with her. And I think another thing I want to do in fatherhood or in the rest of the life is have that filter better off. So what she goes like this filter. So when we're out in a boot, as Canadians would say, don't think you can have to make a comment on everything you see, right? And usually they're sarcastic and everything. And I think it comes from when I was growing up with my mother and stuff. She'd rip on a situation, but not on people. I saw this sign at Quest the other day. Great people discuss ideas, and small people discuss people or something. It was like so good. It's like, I want to be more idea development in my podcasts and stuff like that, and talk about that and research people and get their word and their stories out. I'd want to do that as a dad, and I just keep living life as long as I can and as healthy as I can, and being positive for my family. And when I find myself being negative, finding more ways to filter and to strategize and say, knock it off, Mike, before I send that nasty text to your mom about something stupid. Don't send it. Or, to a colleague when I'm debating on something that really doesn't need to be debating, just chill out and think about your tone. You don't need to be that way. So it's like fatherhood, but it's also more growing up too, reconnecting with family. Because I think we've kind of gotten apart a little bit. Kind of wish the cousins were a little bit closer, but we're all family. I mean, we have they have families, we have families, but probably a little bit like that in fatherhood, and knowing that I'm still going to make mistakes.
All right, now on your favorites. Let's start with food. Now, you like to cook, so.
I do like to cook. Can I put in there that as you grow older and you become a dad, learn how to do laundry, learn how to cook, learn how to clean, okay? I think I do one of those three. And
can I ask which one?
The cooking.
Okay.
Over COVID, I became a pretty decent cook. And I'll get to the food thing in a second. Because I knew the questions ahead of time, so I kind of know the answer.
Oh, yeah.
The laundry, the best thing I ever did, and it was by accident. Your mother and I, when we first started our marriage, we lived in that apartment across from 7-Eleven. And I did the laundry, and I put all the whites in with a red towel and just made everything pink. And ever since then, she won't let me touch the laundry. Mom won't. Smart move on her part.
On your
Your
part.
part, yeah.
But yeah, did I do it on purpose or not? I do like to clean, but your mom's great at that. Cooking, I think, I love to cook. But if it came time for me to get takeout from anywhere, I think I really enjoy a juicy steak with baked potato and sour cream. It's just so good.
Do you have a favorite restaurant?
Favorite restaurant? That's how my grandma used to call it, restaurant. Well, Ponderosa went by the wayside. I don't know if there's any Ponderosas anymore. That place was great. Your mother and I used to go there after school, and we would get all-you-can-eat buffet, and they would also give you an all-you-can-eat steak bar too. So we just eat steak after steak, and it was great. And your mother used to work there, so Ponderosa was one of the best for steaks. And then I think nowadays I don't really want to. I like the Arlington steak. I really do. They make a great steak, great baked potato, and even their fresh veggies. Good stuff. plugging that local flavor, pun intended.
All right. Do you have a favorite movie?
Do I have a favorite movie? Can I give you three of them?
Go for it.
Okay,
I
the
like
toxic masculinity one is got to be Gladiator with Russell Crowe. It's just one of those movies where, a guy gets unjustly thrown in jail, and it's the Roman Coliseum, and fights his way back, and his family gets taken from him, and Russell Crowe is just fabulous, and it's just so good. Um, Actually, I'm going to get four. Another one with Russell Crowe was called A Beautiful Mind, and it was a true story about a man or a professor, I don't know if at Yale or Harvard, but the whole movie he's a genius with math and math equations and everything, but he struggles from mental illness, and Russell Crowe plays the part, and Jennifer Connelly plays his wife, and it's just his struggle to come back from the mental illness to become a very prominent professor, how he almost loses his marriage, and she stays with him, and he's just fantastic in it. And I don't know, I think Denzel Washington won Best Actor that year for Training Day, but man, he was so good. I said four. Um, well,
I gotta guess.
Nutty Professor. Okay, my friend, colleague Christina Wallace can go back and forth for hours on this. It's one of my favorites just because of bathroom humor growing up in the dinner scenes. I don't think there's any funnier 3 minutes in movie TV or movie making that's like those dinner scenes with that family. Eddie Murphy should have gotten the Academy Award for Best Actor. He played like 6 or 7 characters. He had to play each individually. I think so. Those scenes are fabulous. Um, it has a personal meaning because when our dad passed away, you're just crushed as a family, and you do realize, the next morning comes up, and I just remember us all hanging together in the basement, sleeping over together, and everything. Got up the next day, and it was like, oh, we just went, it's still. And Pat was a big Blockbuster video movie guy, and he went to Blockbuster and he got the movie Nutty Professor, and he brought it home, and we played it, and after everything that had gone on the night before, we were able to laugh and laugh and laugh. And to this day, it's one of the funniest things that I've ever seen. So I think, those three movies. I forget what the other one was. But all right, so my favorite TV show is. I would have to say, I'm gonna have to edit this out. Um, I'm gonna go with the Blacklist. It was Ben show that we started watching. Put me onto it. I really like those crime shows that you kind of have to watch, and there's a tale. There's always um, um, what do they call those things at the end of a show that go on to the next one?
Cliffhanger.
Cliffhanger. And it was always like, what's Red gonna do next? And oh yeah, second one, Grimm. No one's ever watched this show but Grimm, for the Grimm fairy tales with Nick Burkhardt and company. Fabulous program. Started in 2016 and went 6 seasons. They're not famous actors or anything, but the acting's fabulous, the writing's fabulous, and it's all about people voguing, where they change from human form to monster form. Your mother won't watch it with me,
We won't.
but I did find a colleague at work, so that is one of the best shows ever.
Do you have a quote from history that you like?
Quote from history, a quote. One of them is from, never, never, never quit. Apparently, there was one from Winston Churchill did what's rumored, it's gossiped about, that he did a commencement speech at a university, and that's all he got up and that's all he said. It was the shortest one. Never, never, never quit. I think another one that I got, I really enjoy listening to Nick Saban. I think he'd probably make a fantastic president, but he's too smart to get into politics. Is he said, your past doesn't disqualify you, it prepares you. So whatever's happened in the past, whatever you've done, good or bad or indifferent, it's prepared you for what your future is and what it can be. So if you don't think you can do something because of something you did in your 20s, no. Learn from it, and it's prepared you to be a better person in the future. So I think those two things really jump out to me.
What about a person you like to have dinner with?
Person I like to have dinner with? I mean, I think I would like to go to dinner again with those relatives of mine that passed on. My dad, my grandparents, my Aunt Sherry, who I was very, very close with. Um, in terms of a historical person, I have to go to George Washington. I don't mean to be hokey or whatever, but just what it must have been like in the creation of the the United States with the 13 colonies and being a general through that. And how things that I've read, I'd like to pick his brain about how he didn't want to be a president. He didn't really want to be a general, and he made some mistakes as a general that helped us. But, just that iconic painting of him crossing the Delaware and the Valley Forge and all that. It's just, to me, it's so inspiring and uplifting, and getting his perspective of what was it like to face those challenges, because, life's easy nowadays. People get upset if they don't get the new cell phone. They didn't have socks or shoes, and they were outgunned by a tremendous army called the British, and I just think he'd be fascinating. And him, relatives and him.
All right, and then do you have any good dad jokes?
Well, first of all, do you have any other questions for me? You good? Dad jokes? No, you see, I had to give some time to think. How do you make a tissue dance?
It's a classic.
Put a little boogie in it. Oh, and fabric. Yeah, I know. It's one of those old. Hey Mallory, can you turn that light on? Hey, light, you're pretty cute. Not bad, right? Not bad. Good things come in threes. Man, I don't know. I can't think of the third. I can think of some off-color jokes that shouldn't be told.
You know very well about that.
Yes, you do. I got a filter. Well, gee, I'm glad for you joining me on this podcast. I think we're going to call it Father Mike. That's what your mother thought. Father Mike, like a Catholic person. I think I would like to add, I think faith is very important as a father too. Not that I've always shown that to you, but I think faith is very, very important. Coming to the end of your life or watching people go through your life, I don't know how people do it without knowing that there's another place. This place can be very harsh and rude and crude and take people much too young, but I think faith is very, very important. You guys ready for Father's Day dinner?
Oh, yeah.
Let's eat.
Let's eat. Did your mother get home yet?
I hope so.
Let's hope. Well, crowd, thank you very much for joining me on the Big H Podcast. You can follow me on X. You can follow me on YouTube at the Big H Podcast, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere that you get your podcast. Michael and Mallory Highs, thank you for joining me.
Thank you.
And let's eat.
The Big H Podcast, tune in now. Conversations that'll wow. Laugh and learn, stay a while. Let's explore that Hilton style. From the highs to the lows, every story just explodes. Mike's got questions on the go, diving deep from head to toe. Every week the guests align, sharing moments so divine. Stay with us, the pace is fine. Every episode you'll find. The Big H Podcast, tune in now. Conversations that'll wow. Laugh and learn, stay a while. Let's explore that Hilton style.